What's up? Welcome back to the channel, Detroit Poker. In this video, we're going to be going over hands from April 11 to April 16. What I'm doing is selecting 5 hands from each poker session. If you like what we're doing here and you want to be alerted of it, definitely click that subscribe button and don't forget to ring the bell so you are notified every time I upload a new video. So that being said, let's jump into hand number 1. Alright, for this first hand, we are in the hijack. We have $407 and we get dealt King 7 of clubs. The first person into the pot is under the gun and he decides rock to open limp. This guy is action, plays a lot of cards, very, very wide range. So when the action reaches me, I decide to raise. This is a little bit loosey-goosey, but it is what it is. Decide to raise it up 10 bucks and we get called by the cutoff, the button, the small blind, the big blind, and under the gun closes the action, makes the call. So we're going off to this flop 6 ways. I don't even know if I have a graphic for this, but here we go. Queen 8-3 club. Action checks to me pretty quickly, and I decide to continue for a little over half pot here, 35 bucks. The action folds around to the small blind. Small blind decides to make the call, and everyone else folds. So we're heads up to the turn, and we need a club dealer right away, please. Turn comes off a 5 of clubs, so the dealer has answered our request with said club. So that being said, small blind checks the action over to me again. I'm going to continue betting here because I don't see why not. So we place a bet for $75 now, and the small blind does hesitate a little while. However, ultimately he decides on a call, and we're going to go off to the river, heads up. The river comes out a 6 of diamonds, so pretty good run out. Nothing really changed. Really happy with this run out, obviously. Second nuts. So the small blind checks the action over to us a third time. I decided to bet $100, and the dude in the small blind hesitates a little bit, but does ultimately make the call, so he probably has some sort of queen. We show the hand down, and he mucks, so we're going to scoop this pot. All right, in this hand, we are in the hijack. We have $390, and we get dealt King 8 of spades. Button straddle is on for $5. And by the time the action reaches me, there's 2 limpers in the pot. I decide to overlimp. This is something I've been experimenting with. And the action's on the button. And as soon as the action reaches the button, he flicks in an extra 15. So he raises to $20. And I remember thinking in real time, oh, this was pre-planned. Like, it looks that way. It looks like he already had it in his mind that he was raising whatever cards to $20. So that being said, 2 people call, early position limper and middle position limper. And then I make the call as well and close the action. So we're off to the flop, and the flop comes out 9-3-5 with a couple of diamonds, and the action checks me. I decide to check. The button checks back. So off to the turn we go, and the turn comes another 5 of spades this time. And once again, the action checks to me, so nobody really seems too interested in this pot. I guess we're going to try to win said pot. So we put in a bet for $60. Try to get this one through, and the action folds around to the very, very last guy, middle position, and he's kind of hesitating, and he does ultimately make the call. The only information I have on this guy is that a similar situation, he checked twice, and he had a nut flush draw, and he ended up calling the turn, and he missed the river, and I watched him fold. And this is because he's holding his cards out like this, and he's kind of showing me sometimes, maybe on purpose, I don't know. I didn't have cards before when I saw his cards, so that being said. So we're going off to the river, heads up, and the river comes in offsuit 3, and it double pairs the board, obviously. Middle position checks the action to me. I don't think I'm winning with king high. Can I get a bluff through here? And I think the answer is yes. If this guy, missed a nut flush draw or whatever, I don't know if he's going to call me ace high. He probably should call me ace high, but I don't think he's going to. So that being said, deciding a bet size is kind of an intricate art. I don't know if I'm an artist. I just decide to just ram all in for $300 for an overbet. Just put max pressure on this guy. The guy does tank, and while he's tanking, he's holding his cards out in front of him, and I can see one of his cards is an ace of diamonds. So obviously I'm saying, please don't call, please don't call, please don't call. But ultimately the guy does decide to make the fold, and we're going to get this one through. I resist the urge to show my cards to the table and just quietly muck. Say nothing. Let's move on to the next hand. So we're in the small blind. We have $540 and we get dealt ace king of clubs. Multiple limpers by the time the action reaches us. So I decide to cut a raise to $25, and Gentleman under the gun makes the call for 25, and the cutoff also makes the call for 25. We cover both of these opponents, so off to the flop we go, 3 ways. And the flop comes king, queen, 9 with a couple of hearts and a spade. So decide to start out with a check. I'm not really that big of a fan of bloating the pot with a hand this week, on a coordinated board like this. So we decided to check. We can accomplish a lot by doing this. Our opponents will often bet worse hands and make betting mistakes. Under the gun checks as well, and the cutoff decides to place a bet for $30, and the action's back on me. Not going anywhere just yet. Could definitely have the best hand here, so we make the call, and under the gun calls as well. The hands that I expect to be against are potentially a lot of straight draw plus pair combinations, just 9-10, queen jack, king jack, king 10, stuff like that. So off to the turn we go, 3 ways. Turn comes out a 6 of diamonds, so it doesn't change anything at all as far as I'm concerned. Continue to check, make the check. And under the gun checks as well, and the action's back on cutoff, and he decides to continue betting. Places a bet for $60, and now the sketch meter is starting to register sketchiness. So I'm not going to fold just yet, but I'm not really thrilled about this situation because I think a lot of times if he had pair plus straight draw, like a hand like queen 10 or something, he'd probably check back at this point. This kind of reduces him down to king X and or I guess he could have flopped 2 pair, he could have flopped a straight, whatever. So make the call. Like I said, not feeling that great about it. And under the gun makes the call as well. So off to the river we go, 3 ways, and the river comes out another queen, so it does pair the board. And I decided to check, and I'm really not thrilled with this card, by the way. Under the gun checks as well, and the gentleman in the cutoff, just as soon as the action reaches him, he snap all ins for, he had about 200, so action's back on me. I don't think there's any universe that we can call this, so we fold. That's it. And under the gun does make the call, so we're going to get to see what cards the dude has. And he shows jack of hearts, 10 of diamonds. He flopped the nut straight. Could have probably folded the turn, but that seemed insane to me in real time. So anyway, let's move into the next hand. In this hand, we're in the big blind. We have $300 stack. This is very early in the session, and we get dealt ace-queen offsuit. By the time the action reaches us, there is 3 limpers in the pot already. Decide to bump it up to $20, pretty big raise sizing, trying to punish these limpers. And the under the gun limper calls, and we do cover the guy. And he's the only caller. So he's got about 200 behind. And we're going to go off to the flop, heads up. The flop comes ace-10-9 with 2 clubs and a diamond. I normally would probably c-bet this, but I decided to check this time. Probably for deception, and also because this is probably only a 2-street value hand unless we improve. So that being said, make the check over to the dude, and he checks through. So turn comes an 8 of spades. I decide to place a bet now. I think there is more combinations that we'll call a bet for what it's worth. Any 7, any jack is probably going to call any reasonable bet size. Furthermore, our opponent probably took us off the ace because we didn't bet the flop. So place a bet for $25. And pretty quickly, under the gun makes the call. So off to the river we go, heads up. And the river comes out. A fantastic card, is awesome. A queen of diamonds comes off, putting a 4 straight on the board. Not really happy about this card. I would have preferred a jack, obviously. However, decide to check and basically just try to get to showdown. But under the gun doesn't want to go to showdown without us paying a toll. So he assembles and assembles and assembles and ultimately decides on $60. And the action's on me. I just snap fold. Not going to pay this guy off. Maybe once in a while he bluffs us. Maybe 5% of the time he probably bluffs us. But pretty happy to make the fold here. And in hindsight, probably should have just bet the flop, to be honest. But maybe a little fancy play syndrome. But what I was going for is check, bet, bet. It's just the board did not cooperate. So maybe he would have called anyway. We would have lost more. Who knows? But let's get into the next hand. We are in middle position. We have $300, and we get dealt pocket jacks. Under the gun, who covers us, playing 700 plus, raises first in, $10. And under the gun 1, cold calls, has about $100 behind. And now the action's on me. We could do a lot of things. We could flat here and it would probably start a call train. We'd probably go super multi-way. Or we could put a 3-bet in. Under the gun player is tight, but I don't know if he's that tight where he just has the nuts only. So I decided to 3-bet and try to isolate under the gun at least and get heads up. So we 3-bet to $45, and pretty quickly the action folds around to under the gun. And he does hesitate a little bit, and I remember thinking, is he thinking about 4-betting? But ultimately he makes the call, and under the gun 1 folds. So we're going off to the flop, heads up, and the flop comes 8-8-7, diamond, diamond, spade. Under the gun checks the action over. In a spot like this, in a 3-bet pot, I'm basically just going to bet range for a round third pot. So that's what we do. We bet $30, and under the gun kind of casually just makes the call. No real read that I can recall. So that being said, off to the turn, heads up, and the turn comes an ace of spades. The under the gun checks the action over to us again. I think this ace does a lot. It kind of just makes it more unlikely that he has an ace, and I'm kind of thinking that if he has a hand like kings or queens, I might be able to fold him off of that if I bet turn, bet river. I don't know for sure if I can get that one through. He could have a hand like tens, and we might still get some value from a hand like tens or nines. And if he just has a bunch of airball like king, queen, or something like that he called to flop with, we can probably just get him to fold and surrender his equity. So decided to bet again, $60 this time. And he asked to see the stack, because I'm sitting there with the poker pose where I'm covering my chips or whatever, and I show him the stack, and then he just all-ins. As soon as he sees how much I have, he says, I'm all in. And I let him, put a couple of chips into the pot and give him the pleasure of placing his bet, but we're not calling. We're just snap fold. And the opponent does show us his hand, and he has ace of clubs, ace of hearts. So I think he let us off the hook there. If he would have just called, I might have went kamikaze and tried to bluff him on the river, and that wouldn't have worked out very well for us, as you know. So get let off the hook on this one, lose a little bit, and we're going to move on to the recap. From April 11 till April 16, we have 5 sessions, and in chronological order, we're going to start with April 11. We were plus 725. April 12, we were negative 40. April 14, we were plus 222. April 15, plus 314. And April 16, negative 322. So that being said, let's go over the hourly rate for the week. So we played 35 hours and 25 minutes in those 5 days. Net profit of $899. And our hourly rate is $25.38. So now let's filter for the duration of the challenge, which I guess that's what I'm doing. I'm just kind of documenting my progress. Okay, for the entire challenge until, the last date, April 16th, we've played 104 hours and 1 minute, and we have a profit of $1,790. And dollars per hour is 17.21, which is definitely trending upward from negative to $12 an hour to now $17.21 an hour. But I think we can do a lot better than this. I'm trying to get over $25 an hour, over a decent sample. So hang tight. We're going to be doing these videos every week. That's going to do it pretty much for the results. I do have some thoughts that I'm going to share just real quick. I think we're on the right track, but I think a couple of these, I'm probably making some calls in spots where I should probably fold. The game's a little different 1-2 than 2-5, so I think I need to kind of tighten up a little bit with the calling ranges. But besides that, I think we're playing pretty good. So if you have any comments or anything to share, I'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, all that good stuff. And I do offer coaching at the website, DetroitPoker.net. Take a look. And also, there's merchandise on the website as well to support the channel. So I'll see you next week, and I hope you run good at the tables and all that. Take it easy.